We have 2 more talks left for CSCON day 1, or CSCON 1 day 3. And the next one is going to be a smoker for sure. Really excited to be presenting the next one again. It's my absolute pleasure and honor. So I'd like to introduce Joe Lubin, who is the co-founder of Ethereum, founder of Consensus, and currently sits on the board for ChainSafe. His LinkedIn about tagline says a lot about what his mission is: to create a formation of technologies and entrepreneurs that will build applications, infrastructure, and solutions for Web3. And if it hadn't been for tech and business, Joe might have moved to Jamaica to have become a music producer. Well, certainly we're glad to have you around, Joe. Today, he'll be joining ChainSafe co-founder and CEO Aidan Hyman for another fireside chat, which is quickly becoming a yearly tradition at CSCON. So it is my absolute honor to introduce both Aidan and Joe onto the stage.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. And thank you, Joe, for joining us.
Hey, Aidan. How's it going? Good to see you again in this context for our annual.
Yeah, this is awesome. I can't believe it's already been a year. Thank you again for joining us. And I guess I'm just going to jump into it. We'd love to just kind of get some really good information across and share as much as possible with those listening. So I guess reflecting back at CSCON 0, we had just witnessed, this CSCON, obviously the world is exploring NFTs and metaverses in a way beyond anything maybe we could have imagined last year during our call. I guess what makes you most excited about the current NFT and metaverse spotlight that we're seeing all over the world?
It's the paradigm shift is on. It's something that we've been telegraphing. You've been telegraphing for a long time. People have been asking us for years when there will be a killer app on Ethereum, and we don't have to listen to that question anymore, fortunately. A lot of disruptive technologies that are enabled by decentralized protocols, so cryptocurrencies and blockchain and digital assets in different forms, NFTs, gamification, play to earn, etc. They're all crossing the chasm into mainstream adoption. I'm at an event right now called NFT Basel. It used to be called Art Basel, but the NFT degens have absolutely invaded, and the energy here is pretty amazing. So it's about a paradigm shift to a new organizing principle, decentralization, and the paradigm shift is on, decidedly on. It's about moving from an old way of organizing things via centralized top-down command and control to more decentralized governance systems, more decentralized ways of creating value and disseminating value, potentially in real time. It's about moving from a world of atoms, configuring atoms into different products and delivering them just in time to where they're demanded. And it's about manufacturing demand for other configurations of atoms and delivering those. And we're about to embark on a time when robots and automation are able to take care of our base physical needs, and that's going to free all of humanity and maybe all of non-human intelligences to live life in a very different and more satisfying way, to focus on creativity and community and gamification and gamified financials and education, etc. And so it's on. We're moving from a scarcity mindset world based on the physical to one that's unlimited in terms of value creation. So we are moving into the metaverse.
Absolutely. And, to be honest with you, really what opened my mind to a lot of kind of these maybe more progressive economic models was this idea of post-scarcity economics, right? What happens when we actually achieve the goals we all tell ourselves we're trying to achieve each and every day? What happens when we actually get there? And I think we're really starting to see, at least in our space, what that looks like when we actually got to the place we were dreaming about and talking about so many years ago.
Yeah, it's going to be madness. It's going to be wonderful, creative madness. I think one of the aspects of decentralization that we don't think of so much is that the innovation is going to move so fast in so many dimensions and so many different pockets that people like you and I, who are supposedly pretty clued in about what's going on in our ecosystem, aren't going to have a chance of keeping up with all of the development, and that's really great, because that means that people who are in charge of keeping the legacy economy tightly constrained are also going to have difficulty keeping up with the innovation. So it's I'm comforted by the fact that the systems that will emerge will be granular systems, decentralized organizations that are appropriately sized, that form based on communities of like-minded interests, and they create their own magic internet money, and they all agree to take the magic internet money for goods and services that they provide to the mission of that particular organization. And the world will be really great at getting what it needs done, and doing so in a way that that provides people and small organizations with economic and political agency. It'll work much better than big organizations that don't really service the needs of their constituencies very well.
Absolutely. And as you're saying, even in our space right now, we're seeing, NFT specific, experts, and we're seeing, and by experts, I mean just celebrities, right? People who, even within the wider Ethereum community, we might not know who they are, but people in the NFT and art world now know these people as real impactful thought leaders. And we saw the same thing with DeFi in the general economic kind of world. And it's just incredible to see this continuing to just snowball into what you've described, which is people actually now able to answer their own problems with this technology and not us needing to do it for them.
Yeah, so NFTs are taking this set of disruptive technologies to the next level, to not just mainstream adoption, but pop culture adoption. It's something, so DeFi certainly was a crossing the chasm sort of event. It basically married tech nerds with financial nerds, but you still had to be a nerd. NFTs are really just enabling a use case for artists, for content owners and content creators, and they don't actually need to be deep in the technology in order to have life-changing impact from this technology. And so it's really our first use case that's just a product. It's still a little rough around the edges, but it's a product that real people can use, and it's affecting a lot of lives positively.
And it's incredibly exciting. But I guess on that note, right, we've seen many promises of metaverses in history, all the way from Snow Crash, and then even to Second Life being somewhat realized for somewhat normal people to be able to interact with this type of technology, right? And that's 20 years ago. However, a lot has changed since then, especially regarding the technology. And so I guess my question for you is, technologically speaking, do you believe we have what it takes to cross the chasm right now? Or are there some primitives that you still believe, over the next maybe 6 months to a year need to be formed before we can really do what Second Life wasn't able to get done?
Yeah, so certainly we can keep crossing the chasm incrementally, and as more capabilities develop, we will get deeper and deeper across the chasm. The metaverse was initially envisioned, at least on my reading, as a 3D graphical technology as a technology that married physical movement through life with some sort of augmentation of your senses or your ability to suck in data and provide data feeds and get paid for those data feeds. So it's really a AR, VR, and a tight merging of sort of information and graphical display. We didn't really think as much about a new trust foundation for the planet. That was a pretty amazing invention. And the Trust Foundation enabled a global decentralized financial layer to be built, which is being built. And so I think we were thinking about the metaverse as this sort of cloud, but undergirding the cloud, you'd have the same old corporate mechanisms effectively, and the same old weakened governance. But we really do have a chance of moving pretty wholesale from life as we know it to a more virtual, more digital life where we are different personas. Some of us will be representing ourselves with DIDs, decentralized identities that represent our real world identities, or using those to represent ourselves as different kinds of personas. We'll be using PFPs, NFTs to essentially construct our own social graphs that potentially we're in control of and that move around with us. The new technologies that I think will be really impactful, certainly DAO tooling is going to need to grow enormously in functionality, and DIDs and verifiable credentials are I think, the next major piece that we will want to add to the mix to really lend our ability to move into the infinite space of creativity.
Absolutely, and just to see it all happening is pretty exciting. As you said, I mean, even last year, in terms of the actual use cases crossing the chasm, I mean, it's a night and day from where we were to where we're at. But you know, in somewhat of a segue away from NFTs and metaverses, because we could easily just talk about this the whole time. You know, we saw Maker be the tip of the iceberg for DeFi summer, and we saw really the original excitement around NFTs this year be the tip of the iceberg for this notion of a metaverse that really is taking grasp of our community and our industry all over. What do you think people listening now and those who will be tuning in later should be looking out for? You know, what is this next kind of iceberg that's on its way charted to hitting us?
Some of it's visible, as I mentioned already. DAO tooling, treasury management for DAOs, capital formation, investing for DAOs. Recently, I've heard multiple times that governance is a shit show in DAOs, and that's true. Governance is really hard because you got a lot of people with different agendas. But we have the ability to create tools and to do governance out in the open and build the tooling out in the open source, etc. And so that's going to be a much better set of layers of governance, I think. And you can actually, I think we'll be able to track motivations a little bit better, like where the money's coming from, where the money's going to, who's doing the voting, etc. So I think it's going to be a healthier system ultimately. And DIDs are really important. Verifiable credentials, verifiable claims. I think you and I are going to have a dashboard that represents all of our DAO memberships, hundreds, soon thousands in our lifetime. And will have different personas. Our different personas will have different badges or certificates. You and I will lodge some verifiable claims against each other, saying nice things about each other or mean things about each other, and we'll have a dashboard where we are able to track and maybe comment on the things that people are claiming about us. In the Consensus Mesh company, there's a project called Sobel, which is creating a map of DAOs and enabling people to use it as their dashboard for DAOs. The other obviously major iceberg is play to earn, and I think we're going to see a lot of variations on that. I think universal basic income is a really important idea, but you have to do it right. You can't just give people things because they don't value it as well. But it's absolutely necessary to retrain the planet as this paradigm shift takes hold. And so I can imagine play to earn systems incorporating learn to earn systems and enabling a really enjoyable educational transformation of the human population and enabling people to earn good livings while living very satisfying lives. We have a project called Virtue Poker, which is going play to earn. It's a very cool setup. It's going to go live pretty soon, and we have the opportunity to take a population of poker enthusiasts and teach them, pay them to learn probability and statistics and other sorts of things. And I imagine that game systems will probably take the opportunity to, whether they're selling sponsorships or there are other good economic reasons to pay people to learn things, they can increase gameplay and just create a much more compelling environment for their members.
100%. I mean, without a doubt, we are already paying for a lot of these things one way or another as a society. And as you said, it really is just about restructuring people's capacity to see how these things flow from one to another, and that it really isn't so extreme what we're talking about right now. It actually is pretty much aligned with how things are working. It's just flowing away from people and not towards people. So I think once we break that down in a way that's actually digestible by a regular person, I mean, these become pretty obvious concepts and constructs to adopt.
And everything's getting turned upside down. Our economy is undergoing a massive transformation, and I would argue that the nature of money is qualitatively shifting. So though we will have so many different kinds of money, they will be community money or contextual money or tribal money. Certainly nation states will still have money, but all these money systems will be interoperable. And in a world where you can, with an idea, you can form a community, and then you can snap your fingers and create $1 billion worth of your own magic internet money, and your community, if it's really engaged, will accept it to build out what you all care about. That's a world where money just isn't as important anymore. It's a way of keeping track of community and creativity. It's a way of keeping track of how much value you're adding to your community or the entities that your community serves. And so in that context, it's really easy to imagine things like learn to earn. We're going to be able to create tokens of value that are easily exchanged, and it's all about the engagement in the community. If you can create some magic internet money that people will accept as valuable to build a stronger community, that's going to be an economically viable thing to do.
Absolutely. And for those who maybe aren't familiar with this idea of post-scarcity economics, I highly suggest to look into this concept, because it is something that has existed for a long time, And this isn't something that the blockchain space just decided one day that, it's really important for us. These are fundamental economic kind of ideas that, we look at the world when we imagine what are things we could work on that are beyond this idea of scarcity. And so for those who maybe aren't following as closely, I highly suggest to read more about post-scarcity economics, because if you're a dreamer, it'll be definitely something that'll make you think.
Or you can just chill and live it in a few years.
That is also true. It is happening all around you. So I guess this year for us has been beyond anything I could have ever imagined in terms of how pivotal it has been for us in terms of defining where we will be in the future. We've grown, as you know, to over 105 people in 28 countries. And really, we're just laying the foundation work for what's next, right? That's really what we're all working towards. And I happen to be talking to someone who's not just been here, but has gone through not just the next step, but a few of the ones that come after that. So I'd love to maybe spend some time to get your perspective on a few of the different things that we're wondering as an organization, what you think. And so what are some of the happiest memories from kind of those early days? You just hit triple digits at consensus. What are some happy memories that immediately come to mind?
It's all a pretty wonderful blur. There are some milestones, certainly being in our little office and seeing a whole lot of people from around the world downloading the Ethereum client and starting it up and seeing the client wake up and look out into cyberspace for some of its peers and essentially seeing that proto-organism organize itself into existence as a baby decentralized protocol with amazing potential. That was an amazing moment. And so we were in Brooklyn with a few people and it was the most intense storm, incredible lightning, incredible thunder. It's like the sky was breaking as the network came to life. So that was a cool moment. So many milestones. So Andrew Keys made some unicorn t-shirts memorializing when the token, the monetary base was worth $1 billion and then $2 billion. And then he got tired of making t-shirts with unicorns on them. We've had a lot of milestones, certainly lean times, tough times. The milestones are getting eclipsed pretty quickly right now. So in Consensus Software Inc., the group that houses the Ethereum clients and Infura and MetaMask and Codify and a handful of other groups, where the numbers are pretty impressive. So we just announced 21 million monthly actives, and we're moving really fast beyond that. So I guess there was a moment a little while ago when the tide changed from us trying to drag the whole world into this while they were paddling in a different direction to the point where everybody's starting to move in our direction, and it's overwhelming in a different way now. And so it's really nice that that people are chasing us rather than us trying to push people.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And yeah, it's absolutely incredible to see kind of what you just described. It definitely, it's a lot to get used to, right? Going from being the funny person in the room to the person everyone's asking questions about, what is going on in the world. And on that kind of similar note, what are some lessons kind of, and you provided a few when you answered the first question, but I guess like what are things that you feel beyond blockchain that as a founder you think are crucial for others to learn, kind of going from that, you know, double digit, triple digit, 4-digit kind of sizing?
Yeah. So you and I have talked about in the past how important our people and talent group is, and had some difficult situations early on, and you really need your people and talent people to be the backbone of your organization. So legal is similar, finance is similar, but we are all about our people. You know what the war for talent is like right now. It's vicious out there, and we're moving from the age of silos to the age of community. We're moving from an age where business is conducted in an adversarial way where organizations try to really deliver as little value as they can and extract as much value from their consumers, to the age of community where we're all in this, and we're all going to make it if we do collaborate. And so for any organization out there right now, you want to create as excellent, we call it total employee experience, as multifaceted, excellent an experience as possible for your people. That's really it. So do things that you're interested in. Do your best to attract and keep the best people, and certainly find product market fit for what you're doing, gain traction for what you're doing, but you have to think about everything in the context of decentralization. If you're providing something that can be decentralized further, if there are spreads that people can sneak into, if people can protocolize something that you control, then you're gonna be disintermediated or beaten out. So really think about what your path is towards decentralizing what you're doing. We're very actively doing that across Consensus right now.
Yeah, I think that's such a crucial point to make for those who maybe are looking from the outside and really don't appreciate how much costs diminish once you decentralize something. And for an end user at the end of the day, it's just going to be a better experience by having that actual power to make those decisions for themselves without vendor lock. And so I think a lot of people, they see these huge sums of money, but don't realize that the ability for you to kind of parasitically find yourself in between these two cogs and just to extract as much value as possible and not give anything in return. Those opportunities are going to be more and more fleeting, I think, as you're saying, as we move more and more towards decentralization. So it's interesting.
So those situations, you can extract value for a period of time, but they're unstable. If somebody can do something better than you, it's going to happen. A stable configuration is where it's community-based, it's as decentralized as it can be across lots of different dimensions of decentralization, and margins, if there are any, are as razor thin as they can be. You can't beat that sort of system if everybody's winning.
Totally. And I guess I'd love to just hear from you. So the merge is here. Everything is going to go exactly as we imagined. How do you explain the merge to someone from outside of the community at a Christmas party? That's one of the hardest things I think anyone here who's a part of the industry will ever be tasked with doing, is how do you explain the technological developments that have taken so many years for us to accomplish to someone who really has no idea? And does it even matter to maybe explain it to them?
Yeah, so Ethereum has been an evolution, a technological evolution. It's working very well right now. People complain about high fees, but the fees are reasonable, and we've got cheaper systems with less security, sopping up some of the the excess demand, and that's a great thing. The merge essentially sees Ethereum continue doing what it's doing. Ethereum is scaling already. Rollups and other technologies are accomplishing that. The merge enables us to run a more secure, more decentralized system because we can have way more validators to run a very energy efficient system because proof of stake doesn't burn an insane amount of electricity. It enables us to add sharding, sort of similar mechanisms as proof of stake, so that the layer 2 systems that are providing hundreds and thousands of transactions per second, even as we speak, are going to be able to take advantage of guaranteed data availability brought in these data shards. And that enables us to scale to 100,000 transactions per second at a certain milestone, but really infinitely, as we'll be able to build layer 3 systems, and we'll be able to scale horizontally in other ways. And part of it is moving from a world in which the monetary systems are dying. They've lived a good, long, joyful, exploitative life, and towards their 80th year of debt super cycle, they are end of lifing. Monetary systems are depreciating in value, and they're not yielding. Systems broken in different ways, and people who are holding that old money, whether they're consumers or whether they're financial professionals, are looking over at our ecosystem, which has been running for a decade or so now, and it's an alternate economy, an alternate financial system. And though it's been volatile because it's a baby economy, or it has been a baby economy, it's been growing exponentially in terms of all the monies that are available in our system, and our monies are in great demand because it's an exponentially growing next generation economy. And so we're going to see an insane movement from unsound money into either sound money, gold, or digitally sound money, Bitcoin, or ultrasound money, Ethereum. And the merge turns Ether into ultrasound money, because we'll be earning more Ether than issuing for security. And what we're not burning, we're going to be freezing in staking for DeFi staking and proof of stake staking and other kinds of government system staking. And so all of that removal of liquidity of Ether is against a backdrop of exponential demand for Ether. So I guess the thing I would say in that cocktail party is just get a little bit of that ultrasound money and join the next generation economy.
Just
that was not
it.
Financial advice, of course, because I'm not licensed to give financial advice.
Of course. And anyone getting their financial advice at a holiday party has a whole bunch of other issues anyway that we don't have to go into today. But we're kind of nearing the end here, so I was thinking maybe we could pick a couple questions together, and if you want to just explore them before you have to run, if you just want to hit the Q&A tab, I mean, we can just go from the top. Yeah, we can just go from the top and go through it together. So we saw in 2017 with ICOs, 2020 with DeFi, 2021 with NFTs. What is the next big paradigm shift in how we utilize blockchain tech?
So it's a bunch of things. People are concerned about the next crypto winter. I don't think a crypto winter is going to be longer than 3 weeks, maybe, just because there's so many parallel innovations going on and so much competition in the ecosystem. So lots of different paradigm shifts. Gaming is certainly a really big one. I think maybe the biggest thing is NFTs, just because they're going to be as pop culture as songs. So they're really going to become a social signaling element. They're going to be enjoyed and displayed by people as much as people sort of live in music culture. And NFTs are they're just a profound innovation in software. They are software objects that have identity and can pay and be paid and vote and be voted on, and they represent disintermediation of the content creation and content ownership space. So getting the lawyers from the record companies and movie companies and art dealerships out of the way, enabling creators and owners of content to access their fans directly. And that's going to happen in many different industries. Anytime you have an intermediary who's extracting exploitative or improper amount of value for the valuable services that they do as intermediary, those valuable services will be done by a blockchain-based robot, a smart contract or decentralized app, and that's going to mean a whole lot of creators and a whole lot of appreciators and very thin intermediation layer.
Absolutely, and personally, that's the dream. That is, the word disintermediation. I guess we hear it a lot now, but at the beginning of Ethereum, it was definitely a much more important, I think, word that was a part of our language that we would always mention. No matter what we were talking about, the word disintermediation would come up. And I definitely feel that a lot of people are moving away from a word like that, especially with a lot of these gaming environments, because I don't know if a lot of them are looking to disintermediate anything as much as they're looking to intermediate kind of something that maybe then their assets could be disintermediated if given the possibility of kind of liquid markets. So it'll be interesting to see how that all evolves, and at the same time, how, as more and more decentralized alternatives to maybe more centralized models that we're seeing now with gaming pop up to enable that future. I just can't wait to see it.
Jump into number 2. Am I worried about the centralization of the blockchain space as it scales? I'm not worried. With every revolution, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. I think this time it's all being done out in the open. It's being done by an increasingly educated population. So I think we're going to educate the younger generations on this stuff, and people will be paying a lot of attention to how things work, how things are being treated. It's going to be open and open source. You're not going to be able to hide business logic and power in siloed systems. I think that sort of thing will be seen as damage and routed around, and the real value will be with the protocols that service their communities. And so there will always be a sort of cyclicality to centralization or centralizing forces and decentralizing forces, but I think it will get more and more decentralized, and we'll simply see centralizing elements, and somebody's going to come along and remove that unstable piece from the system of the world and replace it with something that services people better.
I couldn't agree more. And I think on that note, I think we also maybe look at the decentralization of the system from a security perspective and a participant perspective as the same, but really these are different things. And on the participant side of things, what matters most is the ability for new people to join, right? It's not like we're saying, hey, we actually don't need leaders because that's centralized. So let's just have, after 1 year of being a part of the Ethereum community, you need to leave the community because, decentralization. So I think it's important to differentiate between the two, right? That I think where the decentralization needs to be is in its ability to allow for anyone to be empowered to be a thought leader in our space and or to create, innovate, and take something to market. And I think that's where maybe a lot of the confusion lies in terms of, you know, centralization, because at the end of the day, people are going to build great stuff. And as you said, our hope is that we're creating free enough markets that the markets will be able to correct themselves as real innovation is brought forth to the table. And I guess we're going to see if this kind of free market can facilitate this type of a paradigm shift. But I definitely have good feelings about this from what we've seen up until now.
So the next question, what do you say to people who hear about magic internet money and immediately have resistance or thoughts of Ponzi schemes? So, you know, you could give the conventional answer, no, it's not a Ponzi scheme. The people value these tokens in different ways for different reasons. You could go in the direction of saying, hey, nation states have been creating their own magic government money for a long time, and creating bigger and bigger debts that requires bigger and bigger issuance, and all that is going to end at some point in the not too distant future. You can also think about whether it's possible to run a Ponzi scheme in a world of infinite value creation. So maybe magic internet money does have some elements of Ponzi scheme if we can, in fact, you know, create these systems, create our own tokens of value, and use those to create things that people find are valuable. Some of those systems will put mechanics together that enable them to be stable, and some of them will blow up. So it's not a simple answer anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think the fact that we cannot make light of our industry and talk about things, you know, in somewhat of a happy and maybe oftentimes, you know, with humor is a part of the problem, right? That all of these things up until now have been for serious people to talk about behind closed, serious doors. And I think by bringing these things out to the masses and actually trying to ensure that an average person can be financially literate enough to make a decision for themselves is really the battle we're undertaking beyond the technological one. It's an educational one, right? Where we want people to be financially literate enough to be able to make these decisions. And in that case, I think, you know, laughter, humor, words like magic internet money, I think these actually bridge us to those people, because it dispels through all the bullshit of us pretending like there isn't this magic internet money element to it, right? Where let's not pretend these things don't exist, and instead let's talk about them honestly and transparently. And I think, at least, you know, I see people, you know, my age around me, this really is the first time they've had the ability to care about their financial future, you know, if they don't have those things from childhood set up for them. And so I think we've definitely succeeded with that type of an attitude to cross the chasm.
Yeah, absolutely. The web democratized access to information, ability to publish, etc. The early phases of our ecosystem have democratized the trust foundation for the planet and governance systems, and doing the same thing, democratizing the financial layer for the planet. So open systems, constant iteration, constant improvement, constant scrutiny.
Definitely.
We're all gonna make it.
Yeah, with that attitude for sure.
Yeah.
Joe, it's 4 o'clock here. We've definitely gone a little bit over time, so I just want to thank you so much for joining us, and just for always being such an incredible just person, not just for ChainSafe, but for Ethereum as a whole. I mean, as you've said, for so many years, you really were paddling against the current, and here we are. The tides have turned, and damn, we're definitely going to make it. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy NFT Basel.
Thank you. Thanks, Aidan. Great to see you. Talk soon, hopefully. And thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Awesome. That was an amazing fireside conversation. Thank you, Joe, and thank you, Aidan. You guys killed it. Very insightful stuff, very compelling conversations. And with that, we have one more talk to go to close out CSCON 1. Thank you for being patient and hanging in there with us all. Up next, and to again close out CSCON 1, day 3, is Kate Albisri. Kate leads design thinking and efforts at Mina Foundation. She's worked with all stages of brands, from seed round startups to Fortune 100 brands such as Amazon's Kindle, Beats by Dre, Western Digital, and more. Her award-winning brand design work has been featured in numerous publications and exhibited in the SF MoMA. To her, a successful brand creates, in every touch point, an emotive connection between a product or company and a human. And this conversation was originally supposed to be a fireside with Cindy, our design lead at ChainSafe, but instead it will be with me, unfortunately, because Cindy fell ill with food poisoning. So Kate, welcome to the stage. I'm going to do my best to fill in Cindy's shoes. Feel free to unhide your camera, unmute your microphone.
Hey, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. Glad it's Friday.
Nice. Yeah, glad it's Friday. Woo!
We're almost there. Home stretch.
Almost there. I'm gonna let you lead a lot of this conversation. I like design is very outside my domain. I think like I liked art as like a kid growing up, so hopefully I can somewhat moderate a little, but yeah. So how about I share the slides and go from there. Okay, cool. All right, so Kate, and we're going to be talking about branding in Web3. I don't know if you had any opening remarks about branding in Web3, or should we just jump straight into the questions?
Jump straight in. We've got all the questions here, and yeah, we should be all set.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so why is a brand more than a logo?
Yeah, so this is kind of a big question. For me, I would probably want to first talk about like what is a brand, because I think a lot of people don't quite understand, right? They think, they hear brand and they see television ad, right? They don't necessarily get or they see logo, right? They need to see a bit more. So to me, like a brand, it's a communication of a company's values. It's what they stand for. Every brand comes back to those values, and you'll hear me say that a lot today. One way to think about it that I was thinking about this morning is that an effective brand really tells you who the people are behind the technology, what they are doing, and most importantly, why they are doing it. Like the why is, I think, what a lot of people miss in that, right? And to relate a bit to developers, like you've got your code, right? The code that you write is written for humans to read. Like computers prefer binary. So there's like a human at like both ends of every piece of code, right? And so the brand is how you know if you've got the right human at the other end of the code. Especially like in a technology and kind of a product space, we really want to be communicating like this sense of trust and reliability. This communicates itself that the product itself is trustworthy and reliable and worth investing your time, energy, and resources in.
Yeah, like code can be such a cold, like inhuman thing. Not that I'm saying like code is inhuman, but like the brand really is this like connective tissue for like communicating.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that emotional, like emotive element that like kind of teaches you about like who that company is, like what's going on behind the scenes here. Because like otherwise every company just looks alike. They're all technology companies, right? But we want to know like what differentiates people. So why is a brand more than a logo, right? To kind of get back to that. So the best analogy I've been able to think about on this is, so think of brands as like a person, right? So that encompasses like everything that makes that person an individual. So a logo is like thinking of your face. Your face is not the only thing that describes your identity and who you are as a person, right? It's just one of many expressions of who you are. There's the way you choose your words, there's the language you speak, the way you move when you walk or run. Like my dog can tell that it's me, even if he can't see me very well, right? He knows that's part of my brand, as it were, right? All these things kind of come together to provide people a sense of who you are. So that, you know, brands are more than a visual system. I think a lot of times we just see brands as like, you know, there's the logo and then there's the color system and, you know, maybe there's illustration or photography, but there's so much more. There's music, there is the words that are chosen to describe the brand, whether it's in like, you know, a tweet or even on the website, just, you know, the way that words are chosen and phrased should always be considered. All of that kind of relates back. And if it doesn't, it's not really going to resonate very well with people. I think that that kind of an inconsistent approach or something that's kind of lacking in like an overall brand strategy kind of means that people will like interpret that product as sort of like not all put together and sort of like in its beginning kind of unreliable stages. Like, do I want to trust in this? Is it really ready for release? When something is properly branded, it gives that feel of like solidity and reliability. And then consistency is a big part of that, right? Like when every single touch point that people are experiencing is consistent with your brand values, people can tell that, you know, you put your money where your mouth is, like, so to speak.
Interesting trying to between the slides and the screen, but
Yeah.
great. Should we move on to the next question?
Mhm.
Okay, so how do we know when an organization has a strong brand?
So that, you know, in a way that was kind of just covered. It's to me, it's consistency, right? Whether it's visually or through writing, like the brand voice that comes through. Consistency throughout like pretty much every single touch point is an essential component of a solid brand. It gives you an idea of what to expect. It gives you an idea of how considered and put together the technology itself is. It talks to you about how organized the company is. Like, are they just sort of flailing around or do they have their act together, right? So yeah, kind of back to that like personality kind of clothing analogy. Like, while we might like follow style trends through time, like I might, you know, wear baggy pants one year and then the next year I'm in skinny jeans or what have you, right? Because we don't want to feel real dated in our appearance. But if we're on brand, no matter how we flex with that, it should still feel like us. It should still look like us. Coca-Cola, like Burger King, these big guys, they're a really great example. Like if you look at Coca-Cola, they have changed so many things. Every single year they change different strategies, but their overall encompassing brand strategy is always the same. It always looks like Coca-Cola. It always feels like Coca-Cola all the way through the decades.
That's very true, and I'm not sure if I'm getting ahead of the conversation here, but you know, like what is Mina's, you know, like strength in their brand, and you know, like how do you guys create consistency in your brand messaging or whatnot? Am I getting ahead of the conversation here?
No,
or
this is actually a perfect segue for the next question, which is like, what is the process of a successful brand, particularly at Mina, right?
Oh, there you go.
And so, I mean, it's this constant balance between wanting to like stay fresh and engaging while staying like within the lines that like whatever we put out is still recognizable as Mina. So the very first thing that we do with every single project is I come back to brand strategy. This is like the grounding post. So we've got, you know, our vision, which is an efficient, elegant, and fair future, which directs our mission, which is to create a vibrant, decentralized network of, you know, we've got universal accessibility, and that informs our purpose of like, you know, it's time to own our future. Like these are very crafted brand tenets that we came up with that serve as that like directional North Star for us. So if you hop to the next slide, that's talking about our core values, really. Which again, that's kind of where we start. Basically, if a project can't fit into every single one of our core values, it's not worth doing, because it won't represent us. So curiosity is our first core value. It's about collaboration and exploration, a desire to understand and solve and know things. It's about like our imagination really at work. Next is openness. So we try to have really open communication. We're really interested in empowering people with information that they need to participate with, and kind of sharing our process, kind of like what I'm doing a little bit of right now. But the big thing that I've really loved about what we've owned about our brand strategy is owning our mistakes. I think every single tech company out there has made mistakes, every single one that I've seen. Nobody's perfect, but those that hide it are doing a disservice to not only themselves, but also to the people who are working with their product. I think that, I mean, bring this into Web3, if we're going to start like having everything decentralized and open sourcing things, like we have to be open and transparent about our process and about our mistakes so that we know how to fix them and avoid them in the future. Next one, we've got respect. This is a really, really big one for me at Mina Protocol. Respect for each other, equality, fairness. We take this all the way like into our internal ways of working as well. It just affects everything. It's this not just a commitment to decentralization, but an integrity, inclusivity, and accessibility. Mina Foundation is one of the most inclusive places I have ever worked in my life. We have people from every single walk of life. We are all over the globe. I absolutely love it. I'm used to design agencies where it's like mostly women and a few men at the top kind of situations, and it's just consistent like that in every agency. And this is just so refreshing, and our community really reflects that as well. We're all over the globe. We've got incredible representation. Yeah, I think that's really special about Mina. And finally, excellence, right? Like this is technology, right? This is what we all want to see, is like creating these elegant solutions with sophisticated technology, technical beauty that is really dependable and inventive. I really like a lot of our brand elements kind of conveying this. So we've got this really human side, as you were seeing in some of the photographs I shared in these slides. This real humanness to us, because that's really, really important to Mina if you bring back to those core values. But then there's also like the technical excellence that we're talking about with our technology and our protocol. And so you'll see a nice balance of those whenever you look at the Mina brand. So after that, before I jump into this next one, as far as process, everything's coming from strategy, absolutely everything. Otherwise, it's just ephemera, right? We've kind of discussed that. And after that, it's kind of game on. I have like this sliding scale in my head from like, because I've mentioned like this super fun, engaging kind of human side, and then this more technically elegant, sophisticated side. I've got this sort of sliding scale in my head for each project. Like, where do we kind of want to lean towards? Where do we want to push? So where a deliverable lands all depends upon our project briefs. We're really, really big about project briefs, having marketing goals and audience and all of that. And then for design, it's developing the story. I mean, even if it's a simple Twitter card, there always is some kind of story behind it that helps craft the messaging, that helps craft which visuals you choose, because there's so many at our disposal, right? If you don't know the story, you won't make the good decisions that will reach your customers or people interacting with your product or building on your blockchain or what have you, right? I had this, it's funny, in my very first design job, I had this creative director who told me that absolutely everything I touch should feel designed, even if it's like a note on a Post-it scribble. And it's a little extreme and a little nuts, but I feel like this kind of embodies that excellence value for design. Is like, I really feel like by taking every detail into consideration from a branding perspective, I know that that the people working on our protocol are doing that. I know that they are trying to think of every single detail and every single possible user experience and how can they optimize for those things. If I'm not reflecting that in my branding, I'm doing them a disservice. So branding, super, super, super important, right? Yeah, so I guess, yeah, we could move on to a couple other examples of effective brands in the blockchain. Obviously, I feel like Mean is the most effective brand in blockchain, but that's because I'm very, very biased. But, you know, I was thinking about this. Cindy wanted me to share a couple options. I chose a couple here for different reasons. And I want to be clear that by successful, I mean effective. By effective, I mean addressing what their audience wants, not necessarily, you know, getting the most attention, although you'll see that in a minute. So here we've got Cardano, right? Cardano, everybody knows who Cardano is. They've got this sort of blockchain for all angle, and they push that really visually with this metaphor of a circle, which you can see form their logo, all these different circles branching out. They've got sub logos that use that circle element. Their icons use that element. Their buttons have a rounded corner to them. Their little indicators of a headline have a little circle above them. These are the kinds of little details brand considers that further that message. They may not be noticeable right away, but that level of consistency just keeps in the back of people's head. They just keep remembering there is a softness to Cardano. There is a wholeness to Cardano. The other interesting thing I loved about Cardano is that they've got photography, and not a lot of brands are doing that. I mean, we are, of course, right? And I'm excited about that. But I like that when you look at Cardano's photography, because I'm in branding, I recognize it as there's a bunch of stock photography there. Nothing wrong with stock photography. What I love is they've made it their own. That is well branded to me. That is an effective brand. They're trying to reach out more towards developers who aren't really looking for the flashy, trendy new thing. It seems like they're trying to reach out to people looking for something that works. So that's what a consistent message tells me, is that their tech is consistent. Now, I'm not a developer, so I can't really speak to that for sure. But but that's what I see in Cardano when I look at their brand. So next, we have the famous Solana. So what is interesting about Solana is it's such a different audience, right? To me, I've been following Solana for a while, since I just started in the blockchain space. So I've seen their brand develop a bit. Their messaging is to me, all about fun. And it's been all about fun for a really long time. But what they've really done lately with their current visual system is they have amplified that in a really big way. They're big and they're bold and they're loud and they're screaming, guys, we are not in the background anymore. We are here. And we've all seen that, like, Solana's presence has really accelerated in the last, 6 to 12 months or so. They're really pushing the edges of design trendiness with like 3D illustration and big flashy videos and graphics and stuff. They're looking, to me, their audience is the people looking for the newest thing, the hype train, like they're looking for the flash and the excitement. And that's what Solana wants to bring. It's not that it's better or worse than Cardano, and I want to be really clear on that. It's different. It's just a different type of audience they're trying to reach, and that's why I find that they're successful. It's also, yeah, they can also like appeal to that audience too, due to they've got a pretty big marketing and design department at this point. So like they're clearly investing in that, right? And that just kind of goes to show, like, when you invest in your brand, this is the kind of result that you can get. It's consistent, it's bold, and it's addressing its audience very, very clearly. So yeah. Potential risks for open sourcing a brand. Oh man, so this is really tough for me. I'm an agency trained brand designer. I am new to blockchain. This is my first blockchain job. And so the idea of open sourcing a brand freaks me out, sends me on a full anxiety attack, because I've created a lot of brands that I have then handed off to clients and seen them, like, we have a good brand strategy, right? Here's how you make these decisions. Here's what you want to do with the logo. Here's how you want to handle these other elements. And the clients forget the brand strategy and just sort of do what they want. And they dilute that brand message. And then their company starts to fall apart and they don't know why. And there may be other reasons for that, but to me, from my perspective, if I see that trajectory, I get that brand was a big part of that and not honoring that brand. So I've got a little worry in the back of my head that like, maybe this is what's going to happen when you hand over full design assets to non-designers. And, you know, I think with open source, you kind of have to accept that non-designers will be in play. So yeah, I'm noticing from like different community members, not just with Mina, but following different levels of community in this space. I'm noticing like this desire from these community members to kind of understand these things at a deeper level than just like, give me the logo, give me the logo, give me the logo. People seem to want to understand the why behind these brands. And I think that just giving people some education of the brand strategy and kind of teaching them like about brand guardrails, not like how they're meant to chain you, they're meant to ground you. So like this whole like, don't use our logo this way is one thing, but teaching people why not to use the logo that way, like how using a logo improperly will not help their product be successful. I think that's the kind of level of education that we're looking for. You know, if you know where everything stems from, it's just a lot easier, I think, to make good design and brand decisions. Yeah, kind of getting back to, or getting to Web3, you know, the basic concept is like, we've got this decentralized internet, right? And also a key player is like identity protection. And this kind of presents a bit of a challenge for brand. Like, do we open source a brand with the intention of decentralizing it and allowing full access to all? Or, you know, do we use this technology as an opportunity to truly protect the ownership of a brand? It's about ownership given back to the people. Like, I wonder how open source design teams will evolve to adopt the same philosophy, even if doing so could protect fraud. Like, I guess only time will tell. I don't really have any answers for this stuff. I mostly like have a million questions. Like, do we transfer ownership of the brand over to the community so open source is kind of managed by the whole? I'm not sure how that would work as community members change and grow. It kind of reminds me of like when I was working at an agency and you'd hand the brand design intent over to a client, the client's going to do what they want. If we educate the client on the brand values, about the brand strategy, about how to use the brand, how to maintain the brand, they, you know, we're essentially handing it over to a different kind of community. It's just a company, right? They still manage sometimes to maintain that brand. So I guess how would that brand be regulated in guidelines? I wonder things like would there have to be like a set of community members or something on a team to like, you know, be the brand champions and like not really police people, but at the same time be like, hey, this is kind of more in line with our brand values. Maybe do this, maybe do that. One thing we do with Mina is on our Discord, when you sign up, like at the very, very top of it, we've got, you know, we're asking people to abide by our brand values. Before, it's not even about showing any visuals. It's like, we abide by curiosity, openness, respect, excellence. We expect you guys to do the same, treat each other well, follow these guidelines, etc. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we have to start seeing our communities as like the client and us as the agency. I don't know if that's the solution. And maybe, I mean, maybe this is such a new, the idea of Web3 is just so new to me and it's just so honestly mind-boggling to me as a brand designer that like I keep wondering like, am I in my thoughts trying to shoehorn something into something that is new and different and needs to be thought differently, right? Is there a new model that we have to create to adapt brand to fit better in more of an open source world? So yeah, it's a pretty crazy topic. So yeah, that was pretty much what Cindy and I were going to talk about. Yeah, I've got some let's keep in touch stuff. You can hang out with me on Twitter. It's Kate_Albisri. Pretty simple. And obviously follow us at Mina Protocol. I mean, we love our people. We love ChainSafe. We love all of you. I've got community members following me. We've got some community members on Twitter that are doing some really, really awesome things. Mina Crypto is one of our big like community like pushed marketing groups. They're just announcing everything. I put my Discord on here. I am on Discord. I have to admit, I don't always check Discord. I intend to, but sometimes I just get really busy. Our design department right now is a design department of one. And so basically, yeah, it's a lot, but we're getting it together.
I feel you on that. Cindy for a long time was a design department of one as well, so I'm sure she can relate. What are some examples of open source brands? Like I've never heard of that concept before. I know like Polkadot is trying to like decentralize the governance of their branding, but like it's a very, very novel new concept to me. I'd love to hear more about it.
Well, to a certain degree, you know, Tezos and Near are, if you go to their branding sections on their site, like they basically have released like everything about all brand elements and things like that. There's not a ton of brand strategy up there on those, but that's okay. It's more, I think what they're trying to do is allow people to affiliate as much as possible with their brand. And so to me, that's, you know, open source. But the big one really is Ethereum. Like they've released everything. They've got custom illustrations they've had made in their colors that they put on their website and you can use. They're kind of like the OG, right? Like it's kind of crazy. And yeah, it's amazing. I'm really impressed with how the brand remained with Ethereum despite releasing absolutely everything at, you know, all the time. Like that floors me. That's the dream, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess Ethereum can be considered an open source brand. The consistency for the Ethereum brand is definitely pretty impressive. And when people build on top of the Ethereum brand, you know, it's stunning almost how like consistent it is across all these different, you know, like ecosystem partners and companies, and you know, like everyone's like rainbows and unicorns on
Yeah.
Ethereum.
And I feel like a big part of that is they're like, you know, they were the you know, the first, like they were the first big, like, you know, chain protocol kind of situation. So like I feel like there's like this grandfathered in respect and an appreciation for the technology that like nobody wants to mess with it. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool. My dream as a brand designer is that everybody treats all brands that way one day. Like
An all dream, but yeah, like in general, open source branding sounds stressful as, like, it just sounds like incredibly hard. Like couldn't like, you know, like if you're like decentralizing the governance of your brand, like couldn't just like a malicious group of people just vote and then suddenly like your brand is now, instead of unicorns, it's alligators or something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, this is a potential risk, right? And you know, if something should change like that, what does that mean? Like, does that then give the idea that like the protocol's changed? You know, the technology has changed. Like that's what people will think when they see a big major change like that. And I think I mean, like I said, I think it really has to come down to education. If you teach people why maintaining a brand's consistency is important, if you teach people that changing a brand will tell everybody else that your tech has changed, I mean, I think they will not be very motivated to change it. But that education has to happen. Like, as you know, even as a designer, it takes years to kind of really solidify this. Like we get it taught, and then there's always like, you know, a few years down the road, we're like, oh yeah, but I mean, what I really want to change it. Like, what if I just changed it? And you convince a client to change it, and then everything like plummets. That's just not helpful for anyone. The big brand changes that you see, like when you see a huge difference, it's always because, well, from what I've seen, it's always because the company's failing somehow and they have to pivot. You don't want to tell people that you're pivoting if you can help it. So, yeah.
Cool. And it looks like we have a bunch of questions, which is great.
Oh, wow.
Let's see. Yeah. So why don't we jump over into questions? And apparently I front ran some of these questions. Sorry, Jimmy. But we'll go with the first one from Anonymous.
I don't know if I can answer all of these. I'll try. Again, like full caveat is like the Web3 world is like a really new world to me. I got into the blockchain space last year. So all of this is really new. So apologies to everybody who knows all the things. I hope I can answer these as best as I can. What are the challenges of establishing brand trust for a trustless system? I mean, that is the I mean, how do you establish trust for a trustless system? You educate people on brand values and the importance of why that brand, why maintaining a brand, a trust in a brand is there, right? The brand trust is a trust in the product. It's connecting the humans to the humans. So the trustless system is kind of about something different. It's more about like governance. So I feel like the maintaining the brand trust is a little bit separate. I hope that is helpful.
Okay, next from Jimmy.
Yeah.
Or upvotes. Do you want to read it? Should I read it?
Oh, I can, sure. How important are founders, CEOs, public company figures in establishing a brand? Is this good or bad if a brand is closely tied to an individual? So when I've developed brands for other companies and when we help develop Mina, I mean, the CEOs, founders, we always have them involved because it's their baby. Like you're telling them how to dress their baby. Like you kind of, you need them involved. Does that mean that a CEO's brand should be the same as their product's brand? I don't know about that. Some people want that, and that's fine. They only want to be associated with their product, right? Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook. I don't think he will ever be associated, even though he's done all this nonprofit work and this charity work and all that stuff. He's started Facebook. His brand is Facebook, his brand. But others, not necessarily. I don't find, Vitalik's brand to be anything but Vitalik. Then there's the mix. Like I've seen places where like they kind of have their own, the CEO might have like their own personality come into their brand, but like it's got touches and elements of the product that they work with to kind of send that message that, yes, I stand for these values. It's not just my company, it's not just my technology, but it's me. I stand for these values, but I'm also my own individual person. So while I might share some values here and I might share some visual identity here, I also bring my own stuff to the plate. What do I think about the chain link blue hexagon that encompasses an invisible block or cube? I don't know that I am terribly familiar with it. I wish I were.
Okay, we can move on to the next question.
It's hard. I mean, I guess my point is if it fits the brand strategy, great. That's awesome. It's successful. I don't like commenting on whether something is beautiful or well designed because that doesn't, it will affect if it's effective, but it's not the only part of the story. And so I like to give people a little bit of leeway there and say that like if their logo is not like designed by a big fancy agency or whatever, it's okay. Like it can still be perfectly effective in communicating what your story is, what your values are, and what you stand for. Next, how can and does branding address and influence the regen-degen mentality of the community? What's the regen-degen mentality of the community? I think like it's part of like Gitcoin's branding or messaging, where like they talk about how like in DeFi it's all about like degenning and like aping into random like protocols and like money degens. Yeah. So instead
Gitcoin and Scott Moore, who talked at CSCON earlier on Wednesday or yesterday. He talked about this regen mentality where, like you fund public goods, you focus on like the positive sum mentality over zero sum mentality. So like that's what Tippy is meaning by regen degen.
Interesting. I mean, I think branding addresses and influence all of these things, right? Because again, we're connecting humans to humans. Yeah, it's pretty simple. I mean, I think that solid branding relates concepts to people. So yeah.
And then how correlated are brand development and product quality? Can design favor better products, or can poor products develop a brand just as well?
Well, everything can develop a brand, right? Like I said, the key to brand is those core values. Like if you don't start with the strategy, it's just ephemera. It's just like pictures and a logo, and you can change it all the time because it doesn't really mean anything. So how correlated are brand development and product quality? In my mind, they're a solid brand, solid product quality, right? With Mina, we had this awesome tech that we were putting together, and we developed this brand around it that really supported that, and we were really trying to convey that technology and our community together. And so yeah, I kind of feel like they're directly correlated for sure.
The next question here from Anonymous: has anyone mentioned Mina homepage has a fair bit of technical stuff that is difficult for regular folk to understand?
See, I find that really interesting because we worked really hard to simplify it and make it more accessible to non-technical folk. And so I like that I was able to understand it coming from a non-tech background. But that is very good feedback and definitely something to think about should we want to recraft some things. Super, super interesting. But yeah, no one's mentioned that yet, so.
And then next question from Carlins Joseph. As you mentioned earlier in the session, the logo is kind of the identity of an enterprise when seeing the logo of Mina. Do you think it's reflecting what it stands for? I know it's Mina. I know it's Mina is still is. I know Mina is still is in its early stage, but when someone's seeing the Mina logo, is it saying that it's a blockchain project which aims to solve the trilemma problem?
Okay, so what the way we develop the Mina logo is to think of recursive technology and to think of a fluidity of to reflect those values of that openness and these beautiful movements of like curiosity and looking at these recursive curves and everything. Like that's where the style of the Mina logo came from. So that's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of where it's at. Now, if people interpret it that way, awesome. If they don't, I'm very curious to hear, like, tweet me and tell me what you think of it. Tell me what you're getting from it. I mean, I would love to know if it's conveying that. I would love to know if it's conveying the level of sophistication and technology that is Mina protocol. It does to me. It does to our team for sure. But we're not the only ones interacting, right? The connection is two ways. So
I just wrote in the general chat Kate's Twitter handle and also Discord handle. Please feel free to reach out to her. Her DMs are open. So I think that's it for questions. Thank you so much, Kate. I personally love like the Mina brand. I love like the gradients that you guys use. It was very interesting to hear you talk about, like branding and blockchain and Web3 branding, and even just insights into how Cardano does the branding and Solana does it. I've never really thought about, that like that whole side of Web3. So it's been really interesting hearing you talk about this stuff. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I'm so glad to have been here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
And sorry for like the awkward, like flipping back and forth between slides, and like I thought there was a
that happened.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you did better than I would have, so we're all good. Thanks so much, Tim. Take care.
Thank you so much. See you around.
Bye.
Okay, folks, and that concludes CSCON 1 for this year. It has been an incredible 3 days full of jam-packed with amazing speakers. I can't believe we're finally at the end of it. It's been a hectic, month and a half organizing this, and happy that we're finally here. Thanks for everyone hanging in here and sticking with me and with ChainSafe all the way through this conference. Really appreciate y'all. Check your emails. We're going to be sending out POAP NFTs for your proof of attendance. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone. We will be posting all of the talks on our YouTube. Just search on YouTube ChainSafe Systems. If you guys are interested, if y'all are interested in following more about ChainSafe, then definitely check us out on Twitter, on Medium, on LinkedIn, on whatever, on Discord, on GitHub. You can find all that information somewhere on the interwebs. Maybe one of the help desk people can post our socials into the chat box. But thank you, y'all. Really, it's been a blast. This is Tim. I'm signing off for CSCON 1. Feel free to stick around. We have 20 more minutes left in the event, so feel free to stick around and network and conversate with people from ChainSafe and with other attendees. Don't forget, ChainSafe is hiring. So go to chainsafe.io, check out the website, check out our open positions. If you're interested in building the brazen future with us in Web3, definitely check us out. Thank you, y'all. Signing off. Peace.